On this Sunday night, the gap narrows between the Liberals and Conservatives. Mark Carney's Liberals are still in the lead, but
Conservatives seem to have a bit of momentum.
The surprising reason there may be a spring in their step. Plus, Pierre Poilievre borrows from Stephen Harper's playbook once again. What's his strategy? Jagmeet Singh's plan to shore up support in the North.
Northerners have always felt like they've been ignored by Ottawa.
And the joy of camping, except when it comes to finding a spot.
It's exactly like getting concert tickets.
The stress associated with an activity that's supposed to help you unwind.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Carolyn Jarvis.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. With just 2 weeks left in the federal election campaign, the race is getting tighter. Polls previously suggested Mark Carney's Liberal Party was gaining a comfortable lead over the Conservatives. But new data from Ipsos provided exclusively to Global News shows that gap is narrowing. Our chief political correspondent, David Akin, is crunching the numbers for us. David.
Well, Carolyn, for the first time since this election began at the end of March, the Liberals have lost a bit of ground. That's according to the latest polling from Ipsos.
Between April 8th and 10th, Ipsos asked 1,000 Canadians how they would vote. And among those decided or leaning, 42% said they'd vote Liberal. Now that's down 4 points from an Ipsos poll a week ago, but still 6 points ahead of where the Conservatives are at 36%. And they're up 2 points from last week. Bloc Quebecois support is stable at 6% nationally or 25% in Quebec. 11% would vote NDP, 2% Green. Both of those are down 1.
Conservatives seem to have a bit of momentum. And the reason is we're seeing that the issue with Donald Trump and the tariffs, right or wrong, seems to be declining in importance as far as Canadians are concerned, at least relative to the election campaign. And what we've seen is affordability and cost of living move up the list.
A Global News seat projection model based on polling by Ipsos and others suggests the Liberals could win a majority with 200 seats. Their support is 7 points higher than where they finished 4 years ago when they won 160 seats. The Conservatives are projected to win about the same, 121 seats. But eroding support compared to 2021 means the BQ are projected to win 20, while the NDP's current level of support could translate into just 2 seats.
The one consistent thing that we've seen since the very beginning of this election campaign is the consistent underperformance of the NDP.
Now, there's still lots of time for the campaigns to move those numbers up or down. Next week is going to be critical. It's because the only leaders' debates we're going to see for this entire election are happening Wednesday in French, Thursday in English. Carolyn.
David Akin in Ottawa, thank you for that. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre was in Ottawa this morning, promising to tighten financial transparency rules for elected officials. Poilievre took direct aim at Liberal leader Mark Carney, who he once again accused of hiding from the public. Mackenzie Gray is following the Conservative campaign tonight. Mackenzie.
For the second time this week, Carolyn, Pierre Poilievre attempting to be like Stephen Harper.
A new Conservative government will bring change by introducing the Accountability Act 2.0.
A throwback to the first piece of legislation that the Harper government brought in to tighten lobbying rules, something a Poilievre government would build on.
We will eliminate the lobbying loophole and require anyone who's acting as an advisor to government officials to declare themselves.
The Conservatives have accused Mark Carney of inappropriate lobbying, but any rule changes could also impact Poilievre's top advisor, Jenny Byrne, who owns a firm that has previously lobbied federally.
We will put in place a stricter test.
The Conservatives would also not allow cabinet ministers to own any businesses.
When you're going into cabinet, including becoming prime minister, you would actually have to sell all the assets, turn it into cash, hand that cash over to a trustee who would then invest it from scratch.
That would presumably mean a farmer or small business owner would need to sell their company to go into cabinet, something the Liberal leader has said he's done.
I own nothing but cash and personal real estate.
Mark Carney says he took that cash and put it into a blind trust, but he and his staff have dodged questions about any specifics on those assets. At the end of 2024, Carney held $6.8 million in Brookfield stock options, and multiple investment funds that Carney started at Brookfield could give him future payments. Carney was also a board member of fintech company Stripe, a privately owned company that was recently valued at just under 127 billion Canadian dollars. Global News asked Carney about any potential future payments from Stripe or Brookfield.
I actually don't own directly any stocks in those companies.
Following up on what directly meant, Carney cut the question off.
I just want to come back to this again.
Well, I'm not going to own, just to be clear, sorry if I may, just to be clear, I own nothing now. I came into public life at a time of crisis.
Global News followed up with Carney's staff, Carolyn, but their response did not address if Carney expects future payments from either Brookfield or Stripe.
Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa, thank you. Well, we don't hear as much from the Bloc Quebecois, at least not in English Canada, but the Separatist Party is fighting to stay relevant. Even in Quebec, Donald Trump's trade war has taken all the attention, pushing issues the Bloc champions, provincial autonomy, French language, and the environment, to the side. As Mike Armstrong reports, the party will soon have another chance to regain its footing.
Yves-François Blanchet has an advantage over other federal leaders and a disadvantage. Because the Bloc Québécois is only running candidates in Quebec's 78 ridings, his bus is usually all he needs to get around. But running only in Quebec also means Blanchet's not running to be prime minister. And in this election, that hurts.
For many voters, the key issue, and that's the case in Quebec and elsewhere in Canada, is who can stand up to Donald Trump, who can negotiate with Donald Trump.
This is the Bloc's 11th election since it was created in 1991. The Sovereignist Party has had its ups and downs, but it's never fought a campaign quite like this one.
Liberation Day in America.
Donald Trump's tariff war has taken up so much of the oxygen. Blanchet's having to battle for relevance.
The issues that are so central for the Bloc, provincial autonomy and Quebec culture, French language, and even the environment, or these issues are not really central to this campaign.
Now, the Bloc Québécois is actually losing ground. According to the latest Léger poll, the Liberals lead in Quebec at 34%. The Bloc has dropped 4 points to 25%, trailed closely by the Conservatives, stable at 24%.
I'm not very enthusiastic about answering questions about polling. There's only one that's important, and it's on April 28.
One of the main issues hasn't changed, according to Ipsos, the affordability crisis. It was important a year ago and still is. The Bloc hasn't been able to exploit it because of fear the tariff war could make it an even bigger problem.
I think there's a linkage between the two of them, which is why what's going on south of the border is important personally to voters. But that cost of living issue is still very much there.
But we will also make this.
Now, the leader in Quebec has two major language tests ahead. Mark Carney has a French interview Sunday night on Radio-Canada's highly rated Tout le monde en parle, followed by the French language leaders debate Wednesday. A stumble in either may be the Bloc's best chance to gain ground. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, who is trailing in the polls, is spending his weekend in Northern Ontario, including in the city of Timmins. He's vowing to invest in healthcare and infrastructure, both issues of great concern to Canadians in the north. The riding where Timmins is located, along with northern Manitoba and Nunavut, have traditionally been NDP strongholds. But veteran NDP MP Charlie Angus is not running in Timmins in this election, and that's making the riding a toss-up. Today, at a rally, Singh said only the NDP will defend northern interests in Ottawa.
The North matters, and New Democrats have always shown that we are strong voices for the North. So what our commitment is, we're going to train Northerners to become physicians. And we invest in regional medical schools to train those Northern physicians. So that's one of our major commitments.
Singh also vowed to push for investments in roads to prevent communities from feeling isolated from the rest of the country. To the war in Ukraine now. A Russian missile strike on the city of Sumy killed more than 30 people today while injuring more than 100 others. It happened as Ukrainians were taking part in peaceful Palm Sunday gatherings. As Candace Cole reports, it's a harrowing reminder that U.S.-led efforts to broker a ceasefire haven't made much progress.
On what should have been a peaceful start to the Christian Holy Week, Russian missiles struck the Ukrainian city of Sumy during Palm Sunday gatherings in the deadliest attack on the country this year. This dash cam video capturing the moment one of the missiles exploded.
We just woke up. We planned to go to the church to attend the service when it all happened.
According to Ukrainian officials, Russia launched 2 ballistic missiles on the northern city shortly after 10 a.m. Sunday, one hitting a university, another exploding over the street. This resident says there are no soldiers in Sumy, calling the war a genocide.
The people who are fighting against us always say that they are Orthodox believers, that they believe in God, but we have experienced first-hand terrorism today.
In a post on X, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen called the attacks barbaric. In his nightly address, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said, quote, "Only filthy scoundrels would carry out such an attack on Palm Sunday."
1 month had passed since Russia rejected the American proposal of a full unconditional ceasefire. They feel no fear.
The attack on Sumy is the second large-scale attack on civilians in just over a week, following deadly strikes that killed 20 people in Zelensky's hometown. Russian attacks continue to undermine American efforts to broker peace between the two countries. U.S. President Donald Trump spoke just hours before the attacks on Sumy.
I think Ukraine, Russia might be going okay, and you're going to be finding out pretty soon. You know, there's a point at which you just have to either put up or shut up, and we'll see what happens. But I think it's going fine.
Zelensky has since called for a strong global response and for Russia to be treated as any other terrorist. Candace Cole, Global News, Washington.
In Gaza, an early morning missile strike from Israeli forces destroyed parts of the only fully functional hospital left in Gaza City. There are no reports of direct fatalities from the attack, but Anglican church officials who run the hospital say a previously injured child died as a result of the rushed evacuation process. The Israeli military says Hamas was using the hospital as a command center, a claim they've made many times to justify such bombardments. They also say they warned the hospital in advance, but witnesses inside say they were given only 20 minutes to flee. The suffering of people around the world was on the Pope's mind this Palm Sunday as he made a public appearance at the Vatican.
Buona Domenica delle Palme.
Francis, who is 88, recalled victims of fighting around the world, including conflicts which received less attention in Sudan and Lebanon. He was able to address the faithful without the aid of supplemental oxygen. A Wisconsin teenager charged in the deaths of his parents is facing allegations of a wider plot to assassinate U.S. President Donald Trump. 17-year-old Nikita Kasich was charged last month with first-degree murder in the deaths of his mother and stepfather. Authorities now allege he fatally shot them to obtain the financial means to assassinate Trump and overthrow the government. Investigators say the teen made payments for an attack drone and planned to flee to Ukraine following the potential assassination. Well, if you're looking to keep your vacation north of the border this summer, the race is on. Coming up, the fight for camping spots in national parks and the tips to secure one. Many Canadians are looking for alternatives to U.S. travel destinations due to the ongoing trade war. It means national and provincial parks across Canada are expecting a busy summer camping season. As Kyle Benning explains, there's still time to book your getaway if you know where to look.
Getting to this point of a camping trip is when you can truly relax. Shelter and food are prepared, and you're ready to take in all of nature's wonder. But in recent times, even securing a spot can require a vacation.
It's exactly like getting concert tickets.
Anya Cahill and her family spend their summers touring the country, but have found landing a campsite isn't always easy. Campers required to wake up early and log on to provincial booking sites once spaces become available.
And at this point in time, we camp for a good portion of our time between about May and October.
Those looking for spaces at national parks or at parks in Ontario and BC would need to have their ducks in a row a lot earlier. Front country campsite reservations opened in national parks and in BC in January, with Ontario opening reservations 5 months in advance of arrival dates. Ontario Parks is predicting around 12 million people will visit provincial parks this year, in line with the previous 4 years. And while camping reservations at some of the more popular parks will be taken on summer weekends, the agency responsible suggests looking for fall weekends, midweek stays, cancellations, or even parks away from major centres.
See some of our most beautiful parks up north, which very rarely get to 100% capacity in the summertime.
Parks Canada tracks visitor data by nationality, and while most visitors to national parks and historic sites are Canadian, the years immediately following on the COVID-19 pandemic saw a higher proportion of domestic tourists entering these facilities.
I think there's a renewed sense of pride and patriotism, which is renewing that interest in exploring our great outdoors in Canada.
A recent Angus Reid poll found that around 60% of Canadians are cancelling or delaying travel plans to the U.S., meaning even some of the limited spaces could be snapped up fast. Kyle Benning, Global News.
4 countries in Southeast Asia kicked off the biggest celebrations of the year with a lot of water. The annual Water Festival holiday began in Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar. The festivities, which mark the new year, involve splashing a lot of water on one another, a symbol of renewal and cleansing. The tone was much more muted in Myanmar, though. The nation is recovering from a 7.7 magnitude earthquake on March 28 that killed over 3,600 people. A costly chapter ahead, from printing presses to libraries, the potential impact of tariffs on the book industry.
Many people are even calling me the Messiah because of the Messiah made out of the economy. All because of my beautiful tariffs. They're so beautiful.
Saturday Night Live opened last night's show with an Easter-themed skit poking fun at President Trump's tariffs. Comedian James Austin Johnson played the role of Trump. He compared himself to Jesus, laughing about the chaos on the stock market since Trump began introducing and then scaling back his tariffs. Well, the latest U.S. tariff exemptions announced late Friday are for some of the most popular technologies like smartphones and computers. But a business that's a little more rudimentary is also worried about the impact of tariffs. As Melissa Ridgen reports, the book industry fears if things escalate, the next chapter may be the end for some workers.
This is how books start, absolutely. And so this paper comes to us from across Canada, across North America, and different parts of the world.
Friesens has been in business for nearly 120 years. Harry Potter books printed here on these presses. Presses that ran through 2 world wars and now a trade war.
And this is one of those times of crisis where we're able to load up on inventory in order to hopefully help our customers navigate through what's hopefully a short period of time of this trade war.
The book industry has been largely spared by exemptions under America's First Amendment, freedom of the press. In this trade war, friendly fire is the worry.
The bigger problem definitely for us is the Canadian counter tariffs. Any tariff pressure on our Canadian publishing industry can threaten to make it implode, and so that's what we're most concerned about.
David Robertson is a 2-time Governor General's Literary Award winner.
The main concern that I see is that it's going to inevitably hike book prices up because of the increased import fees, and that is going to lead to reduced sales for authors
and higher costs for many, including libraries.
Libraries have really been challenged with our buying power just based on the exchange rate alone has been difficult, and then when one adds tariffs, that's really difficult.
While waiting for the next chapter of the trade war to be written by politicians, they say now's the time to rally around Canadian content.
Hopefully, Canadians to do is to go out and buy Canadian books.
Guess what I finally got in stock? Finally, so I'll put a copy aside for you.
Some independent bookstores already feeling that.
They're just trying to find any way to support local that they can, so it's actually been really comforting and inspiring.
The industry collectively hoping for the same happy ending.
The best case scenario is obviously that the trade war ends, that our countries can find a way to resolve this, and that these threats stop.
Melissa Ridgen, Global News, Winnipeg.
Next, we take you to a special Easter egg hunt where you need to listen instead of look. We'll explain coming up. Easter is just over a week away, but traditional egg hunts can be tricky for some kids. The Canadian National Institute for the Blind is hosting accessible Easter egg hunts in cities across Canada for children and youth who are visually impaired. Global's Craig Mumney takes us to the hunt in Calgary.
9-year-old Phineas Sizer is just like other kids his age.
I could climb, I could run, I could feed Matilda by my own, and I could make toast. Look at this goat.
That is so cute. He's nibbling at you.
While he may be asking his mother to look, for him the reality is he's not seeing the goat how she does. That's because he was born with a rare vision impairment.
I can see some stuff, but it's very in detail, and sometimes I can't see something. Also, I have rarely even seen a rainbow.
While he may not be able to see some things, he and other kids with vision impairments can definitely hear them.
We've taken large 3D printed beeping eggs. They have a little mechanism in the bottom that beep for the children to help provide them with a sensory experience. Up until 3 years ago, many of these children didn't have an independent Easter egg hunt. Required high touch from caregivers, family members, and support. This gives them a safe experience to get out and feel free and get to experience a little bit of chocolate.
Can you find another one?
I think it's really fascinating that their auditory senses are so heightened and they can just, kind of follow the direction of the sound and find the eggs.
Phineas would find 10 eggs himself, proving not even the Easter Bunny can stop this 9-year-old from reaching his full potential.
Like, literally, bro.
Craig Momney, Global News.
And that is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Carolyn Jarvis. Tonight's Your Canada showcases Lac La Hache, BC, Ottawa, Ontario, and Pangnirtung, Nunavut. You can send your pictures of Canadian pride to Global National at globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Donna will be back tomorrow with a special edition of Global National from Calgary. Have a great night.